Hi, my name's Andy Kerr. I work for Bowers Wilkins at the Southwater Research Establishment in the United Kingdom. I'd like to extend a very special welcome to all of our customers at Volvo Cars in Malaysia. Today we're going to give you a very special opportunity to understand more about the automotive audio systems that we at Bowers Wilkins have developed with Volvo, and to give you a special insight into the performance and technology that makes them such a very special driving experience. To enable that, I'm going to take you on a special driving session with two of our colleagues from automotive audio. They're going to go through the drive with you, explain all of the insights, all of the drive unit technologies and all of the features and modes that deliver such outstanding experiences in the Volvo car. Afterwards, we're going to come back here and we're going to get together for a round table chat where we'll ask more about technology, and we'll also give you some special hints and tips to get the most from your automotive audio systems. There'll be plenty of opportunity along the way for you to ask questions. Please do so via the YouTube chat, and we'll get to those after the session is completed. But before we start all of that, what we thought we'd do first is give you some insight into the Bowers Wilkins brand. And to do that, we have a very special Bowers Wilkins brand film, which will give you the overview about who we are and how we think. So please sit back, enjoy the session, and we'll look forward to joining you on our driving session later on. Right, so let's talk first and foremost about who we are. Now, Bowers Wilkins thinks of itself as a performance-orientated brand driven by advanced technology, with the intention that we're always going to deliver leadership in every category that we compete in. So let's look at our product portfolio in more detail. Our flagship, and in many ways the most iconic product Bowers Wilkins has ever produced, is of course the world famous Nautilus, one of the most distinctive loudspeaker designs of all time, still in production some 20 years after its original development, and in many ways what most people regard as the most beautiful loudspeaker you can buy. Sitting below it is our studio reference performance range, the 800 series Diamond. Used in recording studios across the world, beloved by audiophiles and music lovers, available in a range of sizes, and enabled with extremely advanced technologies, including the Diamond tweeter, hence the 800 series Diamond name, but many other technologies as well, which we cascade into our more affordable ranges of loudspeakers. Additionally, we've also moved into headphones, and more recently wireless headphones. We now have a portfolio of class-leading in-ear and over-the-ear true wireless headphones with active noise cancellation. We've also established very successful partnerships outside of the product category with key brands that we believe can further improve our brand visibility. For example, we're the official partners of Abbey Road Studios. We're also the official partners of the Rolling Stones store, RS number 9 on Carnaby Street. And more recently, we've signed a deal with the BPI, the British Phonographic Industry, which has connected us both with new performers via the Mercury Music Prize and with music retail via Record Store Day. So let's talk about the history of the company. And of course, the first question people will want to know is, why are we here in Worthing in the South Coast in the UK? And the simple answer is the person who founded the company, John Bowers, was born here. Having served in the military during the course of the Second World War, John emerged as a very driven individual, somebody determined to make up for lost time, and B&W Electronics was born. For the first 3 years, it operated from the back of the store, but by 1969 it had relocated to a new factory. From there, John moved rapidly to establish a distinct Bowers Wilkins business, and with it, a unique philosophy on loudspeaker design. The best loudspeaker isn't the one that gives the most, it's the one that loses the least. It's a mantra that we still adhere to this day. A lot of loudspeaker brands would deliberately attempt to modify the sound of the performance, perhaps by accentuating or improving the bass or mid-range response to make the product sound more exciting. John said, under no circumstances will we do that. Every product that we deliver will be accurate, it will be faithful, it will deliver the performance as the artist intended. Now that, of course, was quite revolutionary back in the day, and it did carry with it some risks. It meant, for example, if the studio engineers didn't know their stuff or the performers couldn't perform, the sound might not be quite so rewarding as it might be through other loudspeakers. But the inverse was, if the performance was fantastic, no model of loudspeaker that you could buy could get you closer to the true sound of the performance than a Bowers Wilkins loudspeaker. And it's exactly that the studio engineers so loved, because what they want is to deliver the true performance. They want to deliver the artist's intent, not an interpretation of it. So immediately, Bowers Wilkins found favour in recording studios, and that very rapidly grew through the course of the 1970s and the 1980s. Now we have our own approach, our own philosophy to drive unit design, some very distinct proprietary technologies we've developed over the years, and we will try our best to use them in every product because we believe it gives us a competitive advantage and also a sense of uniqueness, our own identity, that it's very difficult for rivals to emulate. After drive units and structures, we will look for design and control over as much of the audio stack as we can possibly get. In a passive loudspeaker, that of course means things like the crossover and the wiring. In an active product, it means the amplification, the power supply, the EQ, the DSP and more. The more elements we can have control over, the more happy we are that we can deliver sound quality commensurate with the Bowers Wilkins name. Finally, and this is really crucial, the same acoustic team is responsible for sign-off on every product category that we make. That's how we can ensure both the performance that we want and also the consistency across product experience, whether it's a pair of headphones, premium loudspeakers, automotive audio system, or any other category we operate in. So that's the philosophy. Let's look at the applications, the process. Everything makes a difference. So we look at every element and try and optimize as much as we possibly can. First and foremost by using our own drive unit technologies. As I said, that gives us a competitive advantage, that makes us unique. We'll try and cascade those drive unit technologies through different product categories. So we'll share and emulate the technologies that we have in the 800 series Diamond in our affordable ranges using products such as Continuum and giving us competitive advantages in those spaces that no rival can match. So what is true sound? True sound stems from our ability to produce the world's best loudspeakers. It derives its promise from the halo of our reference studio quality loudspeakers, the 800 series Diamond, and our association with world-leading recording studios. Essentially, if we can produce products that can meet those standards, the most demanding people in the music business, and satisfy them, we believe we can transform customer expectations in every other audio category that we operate in. And how we do that is by cascading as much of the thinking and as much of the technology as we possibly can through every other product category. Now, to quickly summarize in 3 simple statements. First, we are loved by people who love music. Second, music that will soon be heard everywhere is first heard through our loudspeakers. And third, we will never stop trying to make a better product.
So we're in not so sunny Worthing, in this lovely XC60. So thanks to our friends at Volvo UK for helping us out with that, for this piece. Just trying to focus on where I'm going. Sorry. That's right. Let's nav ourselves back. Here we go.
That's right. Actually,
oh, you've got it.
I've got a head-up display. I didn't even.
Oh, the head-up.
that.
It's good, isn't it?
Very cool.
I was unsure when I got in, and then actually you realise
once you remember it's there.
Well, you realise just how much it saves you looking at screens, because you're always looking straight out. It's pretty good, actually.
It's very good.
So it's years in the making, right? So when would you have started tuning this? When did tuning start on this version of the car?
So typically we'll start the tuning process sort of 12 plus months prior to production start. So we'll kindly be invited by our friends at Volvo over to Gothenburg to go and join them in their audio lab.
From an engineering perspective, the objective of that is a little bit different in this context.
It is, yeah. I think what's important here is to think about what a conventional sort of tweeter might look like on a dashboard. So normally we'd fire vertically, so it'd fire straight into the screen. And effectively what we would hear as a passenger would be the reflected sound more than the direct sound from the tweeter. So in placing the tweeter as we have done here, what we're able to do is improve things by listening predominantly to the direct sound from the tweeter. So effectively we are significantly increasing the ratio of direct to reflected sound that we as the occupants hear. So not just there to look good, although we're very proud that it does.
Yeah.
And the other thing to think about is placement. So particularly when it comes to tweeters, height is really important within the cabin. So we try and position those as high up in the cabin as we possibly can.
Yeah, right up here.
Yeah, and then the mid-ranges next to it. So we've got our proprietary continuum cone mid-ranges there, which are looking particularly nice in their new silver colour. So yeah, it's a really really nice example of exactly how we choose to place speakers within the cabin.
Off we go. Safely, of course.
Yeah, of course. Studio mode is kind of the foundation of our tuning. So we always start there. That's our stereo listening mode, and then within that we have a number of different seating positions. So we have optimization for 3 different seat positions here. So driver, all, which is primarily aimed at creating a sort of a uniform and consistent sound experience for all occupants, and then we have a rear seat mode whereby we can sort of optimize the listening experience for the rear seat passengers.
Right, should we talk about these sound modes?
Let's do it. Top of the list is studio, so that's our sort of stereo listening mode, if you like. That sort of forms the foundation of what we do when we tune the audio systems.
I like to think of that as, I guess, neutral. So we're trying to take away, coloration, or it should be very natural, neutral.
Yeah. So next up we've got individual stage. So this is effectively what we call an up mix. So this is effectively built on the stereo tuning. A little bit less of a focus on accuracy and more on kind of engagement and immersiveness. So that's sort of the focus there. And you can see we've got some controls for intensity and envelopment, which hopefully you've had a chance to have a play with.
It really makes a difference. You can, almost as if you're part of the performance. So if you want that, I guess if you want that feeling of being there and taking your artists, putting them in that live environment and you being part of it, it's quite compelling.
And then we've got concert hall and jazz club.
Well, I had a lot of fun with it driving this car earlier, because artists that you've maybe seen in not necessarily this specific environment, but in a large, let's say, more classical oriented space, which this is, it really gives it a sense of theatre, and and it does kind of take you there. It's quite powerful.
I've got to say, I'm a big fan of jazz club. I think sort of adds that sort of spaciousness and sort of expansive character that we perhaps don't get so much with the stereo tunings. Yeah, so one thing that's pretty cool about this system is we have what's called vehicle noise compensation. So effectively what the system is doing is it's using microphones and a number of other inputs to effectively adjust the sound to maintain that system balance. So if you were to turn up the air conditioning fan, or to open a window, or to drive over a kind of a rougher road surface, the system is effectively compensating for the additional noise within the cabin to maintain a nice neutral balance. So, right, I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a right here, and we're going to go and let's have a little look at the beautiful South Downs.
Nice.
My old cycle ride to work. Not this roundabout per se, but
Sounds like your old cycle ride to work was quite long.
20 kilometres,
That's far enough.
which is, it's far enough at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
But
All right, let's talk about your playlist, your toolbox, I guess, of tuning tools.
absolutely, yeah, very much there for a purpose. There's a fair variety to it all. So
Gregory Porter,
yeah, a firm
use him in
favourite.
lots of our demos.
We certainly do. Yeah, really nice. We listen out for the sort of the low end of his voice. We look for kind of stability in terms of placement within the soundstage. We look to check that the balance of his voice, the tonality of his voice is exactly as it should be.
Presumably, testing with things of all ages is
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it kind of comes
Things
down to
change.
this kind of neutrality. We try and create a system that works for all genres, all different types of music. So I think it's important that that's reflected in the playlist that we have to work with.
Must admit, I did have a bit of Beyonce on the way.
Partition?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
So now you've watched the brand film and you know the full story of Bowers Wilkins, and you've been out with these two guys in the XC60 and had the ins and outs of the audio system explained to you. We thought it'd be useful to come back here for a bit more of an in-depth chat. We can talk a bit about the specifics of the system in that Volvo vehicle and also answer some of the other common questions that we get about our automotive audio approach. So I'm back with Tom and with George. Let's get to it. Let's talk first and foremost about some of the challenges that you face, George, in trying to get great sound inside a car. Can you talk to me about some of the opportunities?
So I think when it comes to opportunities, the main benefit we have is that there are a number of known quantities, known elements within the automotive audio system that perhaps we do not have in other listening environments. So first and foremost, we know where each of the occupants are sitting. That's not always the case with our passive loudspeakers. We know where each of the loudspeakers is. We know exactly how the loudspeaker performs within that environment, and we're able to account for all of these things during the tuning process and optimize the system for those challenges.
Presumably that also means you've got control over the rest of the system as well, so the amplifiers and the cables and all the other things that, in our passive loudspeaker world, we don't necessarily have control over.
Exactly. I think we're very fortunate in the automotive world where we own the entire stack, if you like. We own everything from input through to tuning. And that's quite a rarity in the world in which we live in loudspeaker and system design.
So presumably, George, considering the amount of time and effort that goes into working out the integration of this system, this is something that, it's not easily changed, and it's presumably not something that you can retrofit either, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's not just a question of changing the speakers and the grills. It's a question of changing the wiring harness, the amplifier, the head unit, the tuning. This is fundamentally and fully integrated audio system.
And that also, of course, means it's bespoke to that specific model of car, not even just to the brand, right?
That's correct, yeah. Each of the different systems is tuned for that given cabin, be it left-hand drive or right-hand drive. So yeah, the tuning is very much belongs to any given vehicle.
Okay, so how soon or how early in the process, Tom, do you have to get involved? Let's go back to the start of a given project. When are you starting to get involved in some of those issues that George has just described?
Generally speaking, as early as we can, and this could be 3-4 years before the vehicle even comes to market, because we want to work with Volvo in understanding the best possible position to have our loudspeakers in, and you cannot do that so close to launch that you're then adding them on to an existing layer. So actually it's really important for us that we're intrinsic to that development process, and that's how we can achieve the results that we do.
Okay, so Tom just mentioned the word position. That's interesting. Can you shed a bit more light on that, please, George? What do you mean by great positions, and how does that make a difference?
So I think it's correct or optimal placement of loudspeakers is really of most importance to us in creating the broad and high and consistent soundstage that we target in our automotive audio systems. First and foremost, that starts with tweeters, so our high frequency loudspeakers. We like to place them as high as we possibly can within the cabin, broadly speaking, in order to maintain that height and breadth of soundstage. We then like to place the mid-range loudspeakers as close as we possibly can to them, so that they act effectively as a single source and create the most sort of coherent soundstage possible.
So what you're effectively saying is you're trying to get a complete loudspeaker, a compact one, really high up inside a door, right?
Exactly.
So I'm assuming your conversations begin with what elements of existing Bowers Wilkins engineering and approach can we utilise, what are most appropriate to be utilised in something like this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important to us that we have a consistency of approach, and a consistency of approach could mean the use of the same materials that we use in our core or conventional loudspeaker ranges. And we embody that in Volvo cars today. So you'll see, for example, aluminium double domes as carried over from our 600 series loudspeakers. The tweeter on top we've spoken about, you'll find on our 700 series loudspeakers, and continuum cones, which we introduced with our 800 series range in 2015. So these are all technologies from our core ranges that make their way into the car, albeit with some further engineering to help us deliver that in a car environment.
And I presume the conversation becomes much more straightforward for both of you guys when you're saying, well, why do you want to use something like the continuum cone when it's the cone technology that's used in the reference loudspeakers in Abbey Road Studios? That's a fairly compelling argument, right?
Exactly, and it's proven, and it's award-winning, and it's widely speaking lauded the world over for its incredible sound reproduction. And so why wouldn't we want to put that into another environment?
We're very fortunate in the case of the Volvo systems where we have what's called vehicle noise compensation. So we're able to account for changes within the cabin environment using these powerful tools. So whether you turn up the air conditioning or perhaps open a window or drive over a noisier surface, the system will respond to those inputs and compensate accordingly.
Does that mean, George, it's also going to compensate if you drive faster or if you're driving on a rougher road?
Absolutely, that's quite right.
Okay, excellent. So do you think, therefore, Tom, given tools like that and the component parts that we've got, that you really can translate the Bowers Wilkins sound experience inside a car?
Definitely. And, I think one important thing is we like to say, listen and you'll see. So if you're unsure whether you can tell the difference, we challenge you to try and do so, because we feel that it's a real tangible benefit you can hear and feel.
Great. Okay, so look, that's our interview completed. I hope you found that interesting and insightful. Don't forget, we're going to do our best to answer the questions that you've been sending through, so please continue to send those in to us. And in the meantime, on behalf of George and Tom and myself, thank you very much for your attendance.